Welcome to the NANB webinar on Practicing with Limited Resources, a guide for RNs and NPs. This document was revised in 2019 by collaborative work between NANB and NBNU. The duration of this webinar is about 10 to 15 minutes. RNs and NPs may find it challenging to meet their professional responsibilities in providing safe, competent, compassionate, and ethical care when forced to work with limited resources such as working short-staffed, working overtime, floating to an unfamiliar unit, and working with an inadequate staff mix. Remember, in all situations, RNs and NPs are expected to practice in accordance with legislation, the standards of practice for RNs, the standards of practice for primary healthcare NPs, the Code of Ethics, and employer policies. How can RNs and NPs avoid unsafe situations that could cause harm to the client? The following strategies will hopefully help RNs and NPs in reducing the risk of harm to clients. Strategies for RNs and NPs. Assess and set priorities. Identify and prioritize client care needs requiring immediate or urgent attention with your colleagues. Differentiate activities that are absolutely necessary from those that can be delayed, and modify clients' plans of care and/or delivery of care as necessary. Collaborate and communicate. Advise leadership, supervisors, or managers of the situation. Review the assignment or caseload to determine how to provide care based on priorities. Determine which tasks can be delegated to other team members. Workload should be equally distributed among staff. Communicate any changes in client conditions to other members of the healthcare team and leadership, supervisors, or managers as needed, and reassign workload accordingly. Communicate and document patient safety concerns. When necessary, inform clients that there will be changes in their plan of care. Document any concerns about the situation through the New Brunswick Nurses Union Work Situation Report when faced with an unsafe situation, and complete an incident report when needed. Propose solutions which promote safe, ethical, compassionate, and competent care. Strategies for employers and nurse leaders. Assess and set priorities. Determine the competencies of the nursing providers practicing in the health setting affected by the situation. If more than one area is involved, the nursing supervisors or charge nurses should be consulted. Determine which support staff on hand is appropriate to assist with services such as transporting clients, clerical functions, and/or housekeeping duties. Communicate and collaborate. When requiring an RN to float, consider a buddy approach. Assign the RN with an experienced RN. Refer to employer policy if in place for guidance. When staff have been floated from another unit, it would be best to identify options with the floated RN and the nurse manager or supervisor of the receiving unit for patient care assignment, ensuring that RNs are practicing within their own level of competency. Once the situation is stabilized, the manager or supervisor will evaluate where the RN is required for the remainder of the shift if alternative solutions have not been put in place. Keep staff informed about the development of situations or solutions to address the problem. Work with staff to address any concerns around client or staff safety. Work with the RN so she can be safely assigned duties within her current competencies. Monitor and report. Monitor staffing situations on an ongoing basis and report to senior management in a timely manner. What is considered abandonment? Abandonment occurs when an RN and/or an NP has engaged with a client or has accepted an assignment and then discontinues care without negotiating a mutually acceptable withdrawal of service with the client, arranging for suitable or replacement services, or allowing the employer a reasonable opportunity for alternative or replacement services to be provided. It is directly related to the therapeutic nurse-client relationship, which is formed for the purpose of meeting the client's healthcare needs. The relationship is planned, time-limited, and goal-directed, and RNs and NPs enter into the relationship with a commitment to provide quality care. Once care of a client has been undertaken, RNs and NPs have ethical and legal responsibility to provide care for the assigned period of work. We will speak more about this topic in the following slides. Case study: excessive hours or overtime for RNs. Situation: at the completion of the shift, the supervisor, nurse manager, or designate tells the RN that she has to stay to work because no replacement was found for a colleague who called in absent. Question: can the RN refuse to work overtime? Is it considered abandonment if the RN does not stay? Yes, the RN can refuse to work extra hours or shifts beyond the posted work schedule and withdraw from care due to fitness to practice when she gives proper notice. These situations could, depending on the facts, not be considered abandonment. RNs are entitled to end the therapeutic nurse-client relationship under certain circumstances. Each situation is ultimately fact-specific. RNs are expected to apply good clinical judgment and compassion in each case to determine the most appropriate course of action. If the RN chooses to stay, she must be clear about her limits and on how long she is staying at work. Having an open communication and maintaining professionalism are key in these situations. If the RN leaves without having a proper replacement, she could face disciplinary action from her employer as per policy and/or contractual stipulations. This could also result in a complaint being lodged with NANB for professional misconduct. NANB would then decide if the RN should be held accountable depending on the situation and the facts. Case study: excessive hours or overtime for NPs. Can the NP refuse to work overtime? Yes, like the RN, the NP can refuse to work extra hours or shifts beyond the posted work schedule and withdraw from care due to fitness to practice when she gives proper notice. If you're an NP and you are practicing with limited resources, NANB and NBNU acknowledge that you have a more unique working situation, so please call us for more specific guidance. Case study: floating to an unfamiliar unit. An RN has been asked to float to another unit without orientation. Can the RN refuse to be reassigned or float to another unit that is short-staffed? Requiring an RN to work in an area that she is not familiar with may happen in some situations. The RN has the professional responsibility to take on only those nursing assignments for which she is competent. The RN should clarify the assignment and assess her capabilities in relation to the assignment. If the RN identifies she is not able to take a client assignment and provide safe, competent, compassionate, and ethical care on a reassigned unit, she is still responsible to float and provide nursing care for which she has competence. The RN could also refer to employer policy if in place for guidance. Safety and staff skill mix. RNs on a particular unit may be without sufficient professional staff. They are concerned about client safety and worried about liability if a client is harmed. What are the RN's responsibilities when faced with inadequate staff mix? The RN is responsible to identify and prioritize the necessary nursing services required to meet the essential needs of the client and decide which aspects of care can be safely assigned or delegated to others. The RN should communicate changes in care with clients in a way that instills trust. Additionally, the RN is responsible for responding to and reporting unsafe situations. See Strategies for RNs and NPs Practicing with Limited Resources on page 3. The RN's employer should be notified in writing of the RN's concerns with a request for follow-up. Case study: told she must stay but has no child care. The RN has been called to cover for a shift. She tells the nurse manager or supervisor that she can do the shift, however, she will not be able to stay late as she only has child care for the current shift and not for any overtime. She made it very clear to the nurse manager or supervisor that she cannot do any extra hours when she accepted this shift. At the end of the shift, the nurse is told she must stay. What are the RN's options in this situation? The RN could refuse to take the shift if she cannot assure childcare. However, if she takes the shift and the manager or supervisor asks that she stays, and she refuses because she has no childcare and there's no one to replace her, she could face disciplinary action from her employer as per policy and/or contractual stipulations. This could also include a complaint being lodged with NANB for professional misconduct. NANB would then decide if the RN should be held accountable, depending on the situation and the facts. If the RN can demonstrate that she did everything in her power to arrange childcare and she could not, this would be taken in consideration in the professional misconduct complaint. The employer must also understand that they cannot cause a crime by not allowing the parent to fulfill their parental obligations. They could also be held accountable in this situation. Having an open communication and maintaining professionalism are key in all of these situations. We encourage you to consult the document Practicing with Limited Resources, a guide for RNs and NPs. It is available on the NANB and NBNU websites and provides more information and helpful resources. Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions related to working with limited resources, or for any other questions related to your practice, please contact NANB. Our email is nanb@nanb.nb.ca, and our phone number is 506-458-8731, or toll-free 1-800-442-4417. Thank you.